Boss battles, goblin infanticide, crooked cops, and old people. Hello, crawlers, and welcome to episode 2 of a Dungeon Crawler Carl read-along podcast. I'm Grant Davis, and along with me are...
John Rubio.
And Martin Thomas.
And we didn't actually introduce ourselves on the first episode.
We didn't.
No, we apparently missed a few things.
What'd we miss?
Well, we missed doing that.
Okay.
Which I mean, we did it on our episode 0, and maybe you don't have to introduce yourself in episodes anymore.
You have to always assume it's somebody's first time to tune in.
Do they? I don't know. Like, I guess if people are trying to learn us, our names are in the show notes, and our names are pretty obvious to who we are, I think. I'm very much a Grant Davis.
You're the Grantiest Davis of them all. Well, do we have like lower thirds?
Yes, I did end up putting those on.
Okay.
And so it's in the video. And if you're listening in the audio version, you're missing out because we're beautiful. But that's okay. We did miss a few other things that we wanted to bring up from chapters 1 through 10.
Really? What did we miss?
Well, I mean, I should point out we're on episode 2, and episode 2 will consist of us discussing chapters 11 through 28.
Yes.
Of book 1.
All the way.
Dungeon Crawler Carl.
All the way to the end of part 1 of the book.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there, for anyone who has read the book a bit more, it seems like a gross oversight that we never even touched on the crown of the Sepsis whore.
Right. That is a crown it's a tiara that Donut gets really early in the book. And it was something that she got, I forget exactly how she ended up getting
One of those loot boxes.
Yeah, she gets a loot box, and then she doesn't read the description before she puts it on.
Despite being told that you should always read the description.
Yeah, but she's a cat.
She's a cat.
Like, she doesn't really
and
care.
A child, I guess.
Yeah, she's like
in a lot of respect.
4 years old, I think, is how old she is. But
that's 28 in human years, which is still a child.
Yeah, but she just ends up equipping this tiara, and the description on it, I actually wrote it down. It's placing this crown upon your head permanently places you within the royal line of succession for the Blood Sultanate on the 9th floor of the World Dungeon. Removing this item will not remove this status. Royal members of the Blood Sultanate will be required to slay the Sultan and all the other members of the royal family before descending to the 10th floor. So, if this is something that A, she keeps, and B, if she, ends up getting that far, might be a big deal.
I mean, it is. Spoiler, it's probably a big deal.
Okay, I'm not going to keep doing this. As a matter of fact, I think this might be the last time.
Okay.
But there's something similar to that in Kaiju.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
A cursed object that, lingers kind of thing?
Well, that kind of thing where, you've activated this, or you've made this deal, now you have to go slay this other huge presence that, I don't want to do that. I don't want that side mission. No, it's too late. You have to.
Yeah.
And when it comes time to do it, it's like, okay, you have to do that, but that puts you at odds with someone that you need. So how are you going to work this out?
Classic dilemma.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We also never even mentioned where we left off. I guess the real final endpoint, because it's kind of funny us picking to end at chapter 10, because that's right when Carl lights dynamite at this room where there's Spanish text over it.
Yeah.
Which I don't. You speak Spanish.
I do.
I do not.
Yeah,
I don't know what it says.
There's some Spanish writing on the outside of what we assume is a boss chamber that pretty much says do not enter. It's like a condemned space. Like, the health department is banned people from entering, and Donut, I think he equips some goblin TNT or some dynamite, and he's gonna throw it in to the room.
Yeah.
And the last line of it is I hope to God that this doesn't go off as soon as it hits the ground. And chapter 11, the first line is, it went off as soon as it hit the ground.
Classic.
Yeah.
Classic joke.
Yeah.
So those are a couple of our missed points we wanted to touch on Now, like I said, we're going to be discussing today chapters 11 through 28. And if you can't quite remember what happened there, don't worry, because we have a previously on.
Call it a recap.
And that's how they called it on Lost, though.
Previously. Well, it's actually, it always reminds me of X-Men. That's why it was always Scott saying previously on X-Men.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I always liked it.
Previously on chapters 11 through 27 of Dungeon Crawler Carl. Carl and Donut fight the Hoarder in their first of many boss battles and learn an even uglier side of the dungeon. They finally encounter fellow crawlers, revealing both the best and worst of humanity. They negotiate with their enemies, get a new ride, and find the stairway to the second floor, which is unfortunately guarded by a giant ball of swine, a level 15 burrow boss.
Now, that brings us to you, Martin.
Yes.
You haven't read the books before. Rubio and I both have. So now that you've read chapters 11 through 28,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts?
So I'm liking it a whole lot better. I'm immersed now. As a matter of fact, it's a struggle to not keep reading it. I want to hold back so I can stay within, the parameters of what we set up with the show. But now that I'm on the train, I want to keep going. It's getting more fun. It's getting more detailed. I'm getting to know the characters better, and other characters are coming in that are interesting, that are really adding to all of this.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm kind of getting used to the Patrick Warburton voice when I don't really think about it. It's one of those where I go, all right, I still don't think it was the best choice, but considering how many voices he had to do or has to do currently, you got to mix them up. So, all right, it's fine.
And so far, we're in a place where you can count those voices on two hands.
Yeah.
Later in the series, we're like, it's insane. Like, it's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
How many voices he ends up doing in this whole series.
It's a full-on Lost ensemble.
Right. I went on Reddit to look, read some comments, and so many people were just blown away finding out that it wasn't a full ensemble.
Right.
And for me, I'm still listening, going like, how is the voice of Carl and the voice of Donut coming out of the same person?
Yeah. Such range.
He does a lot of cold readings that he live streams on the internet when he records the audiobooks. We're talking about the narrator, Jeff Hayes, and watching him do it is really fascinating. It's just like a million different voices coming out of the same head, and it's so impressive.
It's also fun to watch the process because you see him switching between all of the tracks to record each one to keep it nice and clean, and he's doing like punch and roll, like really just redoing each take until he has it just how he wants it.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
I always wonder about that. I was like, because I've gone through other audiobooks with readers who do voice switching, but wonder, do they just read one character all the way through and then come back and then do the other?
Yeah, he's toggling between each as he goes. Yeah. It's quite a thing. I want to, before we get into the conversation, say this episode is sponsored by Carl Beer.
It's not sponsored. It's not.
Carl.
It's not sponsored at all.
I feel like it is, though, even though they haven't agreed to it.
It's kind of perfect. Carl is a local beer here in Austin.
Yeah, from St. Elmo Brewing Company. They're just phenomenal, and they make this Carl Kolsch style beer that we're all just big fans of. Like I drink it all the time.
I was walking out of the house. I grabbed this 6-pack, and as I was walking out, my daughter, she's 12, she was like, "Oh, you're doing that for the show?" And I looked down and went, "Huh, look at that. I didn't even think about it."
Yeah,
just a beer I happen to like.
Not a sponsorship at all. It's just a beer that we buy often.
Could be a sponsorship.
Yeah.
Well, Rubio, what do you think about these set of chapters?
This set of chapters is interesting because this is the first floor. I think this group of chapters that we've read end right when they're going to descend, or right when they descend to the second floor. And this whole first part of the book for me was very clunky the first time I read it, and it's still kind of clunky this time, but it's an info dump, right? It's like setting up the rules of the world, the parameters. There's a bunch of like footing that the writer seems to be getting as he goes along. And I think the second floor, the second half of the first book is really where I started to enjoy it. And, by the end of the first book, I was hooked enough to want to read the second book. I wouldn't say that I loved the first book the first time I read it, but I've come to appreciate it a lot more on this listen through.
It is interesting because we all come from doing a lot of film and movie and comic book criticism, analysis. Martin, you are still a world-renowned movie critic. And
okay, and the loosest definition of that, I will take it.
Well, like there are these elements of story structure that we kind of look for and expect for, like, when we're getting finally that hook.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if thus far you've felt like you found that hook.
I feel like I'm close to it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's enough to where, you know how some stories, they're character based and some are plot based.
Yes.
And you can get hooked by either. The best is a synthesis of the two. And I feel like this has not been character based, but I am hooked by the plot. With the characters, the characters are becoming more endeared to me, mostly through just being with them all the time.
Right.
Not so much anything they've done, but just, it's like you watch a movie and you attach yourself to a main character just because that's who the camera's on all the time.
Yeah, and a lot of other books have a real benefit to, a lot of other books happen in this world, like the stories happen in a world that you're familiar with. And this one really has to set you up for a completely different world, a bunch of different new rules, so you have this whole first part of a book that doesn't really have the time to build character out other than just hear a few archetypes and hear how they just kind of bounce off of each other. And really, it isn't even like a plot-driven book in the first half. It's really a mechanics-driven book.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then like once you get over those mechanics, then the character moments can start happening. Then you could start building off of the archetypes that you've set up and really defining who these people are.
Right. And you mentioning the importance, Martin, of plot and of characterization, and you can gravitate toward either, but the true masters, I'm glad you brought up the show Lost. The true masters like Lost just really know how to, like, bring both of those elements together.
Yes.
I do find that
I must agree with you.
Again, I do have to reiterate to people who might have just, I don't know why you started this episode, but Grant really liked the Lost TV show.
He really, really liked
all the way through, where most of us hated a lot of it.
I won't say a lot, just the ending.
Well, nevertheless, I think that within these chapters 11 through 28, we start seeing a bit more of this character development, or a little glimpses of backstory that start enriching Carl. You get a sense of this guy's relationship with his father, with his parents, and his relationship with Donut. I think as it kind of keeps developing, you start getting a sense of not only his protective nature and his sense of honor and, I guess, righteousness, especially when he's like defending like the Meadowark people, which we'll get to in a minute. But I found that all of those elements just started making me, start rooting for this guy a bit more than like this kind of oafish dummy who's just caught in some wacky situation. It's not there yet for you?
No. The things you're saying, I don't feel like they're all that strong just yet. I mean, they're there, but they're not really all that strong. Like, I didn't really see him so much as an oaf. But he's protecting old people, which is Like, that's the bare minimum of what a decent person does. It's hard to say, like, oh, he's now, he's heroic and he's protecting the cat. Well, he went out to save the cat to begin with.
Right.
And being kind to animals, again, that's on that lower rung of, like, this is what a good or just average non-psychopathic person would do. I guess my thing is, like, with the book, there's so many things that I don't know if we did it on the show, compared it to, but you talked about the Hunger Games and the Running Man, and even, for a lesser degree, Ready Player One. For all that's going on with these games in there's really, like, a deeper theme of exploitation and class warfare and things that hit home for all of us.
Yeah.
And here, this game is happening for aliens' entertainment, and those deeper themes have not materialized yet. I'm not saying they won't be there, but so far it's just like, okay, this is just a fun romp, I guess, like playing a video game.
So here's one thing that's interesting about this book is that as it goes on, there is like a satirical level that you start to see develop across the story you're reading, but there's also like in-world satire happening. With we have characters like this first boss, the Hoarder. There's another boss that happens later on that's another satirical take on dude bro culture, right?
Right.
The juicer, right?
Yeah.
And you have these in-world Verhoeven-esque sort of satirical elements.
It's a good word.
that seem to play to the audience within the world, within the story, but are also, kind of working on a meta layer also, like as a reader of the book. And that part, like the part that is for us, develops a little bit more as it goes on. When you start seeing like the bigger machinations of the world, when you start seeing all the different, ways that the people involved in this world are exploited. It's an interesting sort of like interior, exterior, multi-level satire that's happening. That's kind of cool.
I mean, I can see how there's certainly an avenue for that, and it seems like it is like slowly like coming in drops.
Right.
But something I'm curious about, because you bring up the juicer, the dude bro, and the homeless woman, the garbage woman,
the Hoarder,
yeah, the Hoarder, and these are things very much of our world.
Yeah.
So are we to believe that, like, these aliens who set this up, they did it just because they're on Earth, or are these universal archetypes throughout the galaxies?
Well, one thing that is, I think that inequity happens throughout this whole universe in the way that it's kind of portrayed in this book. I think there's a lot of like socioeconomic divisions that are still a thing in this whole system. It's obviously a capitalistic system. There's a bunch of pressures that you start seeing kind of, push and pull on everything that happens in world, so I think those questions start kind of revealing themselves a little bit later.
It's a fascinating question, because where I was in the first listen through, where I guess you are now, I would have one answer to that, and now reading the book,
now that you know so much more,
like I can look back now and kind of retroactively see it through another lens, I guess. But yeah, up until this point, it is odd to the viewer to see that there's 4 different boss battles that happen in this section. There's the Hoarder, there's the Goblin Chieftain, which I don't know if this counts as a boss battle because it's a little bit off screen.
He literally just throws some TNT into a room, or a bunch of bombs into a room, and blows up this Goblin Chieftain and a bunch of babies. He doesn't even know that there's goblin babies. And Donut says, yeah, there were old ones in there and pregnant ones too.
It's an awful massacre. Then the juicer, and then the ball of swine. But it's obvious that there's some element of the dungeon that is taking and exploiting elements of our culture in a way that are trying to elicit a reaction. We see this as well within I forget the name of it. What was the name of the show? The Dungeon Crawler World,
Yeah,
I think.
Dungeon
Is that
Crawler
what
World.
it is?
Yeah.
The show when we first get like, here is Earth, and like Carl's getting upset when watching this because it's showing all the bad parts. He's like, hey, you're only showing the bad parts. Like,
Right.
there's homelessness and there's fighting and war, and like there's good parts too that they're not showing. So it's clear that the creators of the show are trying to paint a certain picture of what society is.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, the element, I don't know if this is saying too much. The controlling force within the dungeon also plays into that. It plays into triggering and playing on hyperbole and exaggeration and exploitation of hoarders and juicers and absurdities of culture. I don't. Maybe I said too much.
I don't know. You could bleep it out if you think if you think you did.
It might be okay. I think that's vague enough.
It's probably okay. But so the first encounter that happens is Carl against this hoarder boss, right?
Yeah.
And that is a part of the story that kind of stuck with me because I'm a Mexican guy. You know, I grew up around in a town on the border of Mexico that is like 99% Hispanic people. And hearing this mob, this monster in this story, this 14-foot tall, fat Latina saying in Spanish, please help me. My stomach hurts. I don't know where I am. I don't know what's going on. I'm fucking scared. And she's like vomiting roaches out and she's just asking for help. And this situation that is set up where like, oh, Carl has to defeat this monster, right? Like this fucking it's a horror. It turns into a horror movie.
It's pure horror
for like one scene.
And I think it's the first part in the series where you see this like, oh, okay, this took a tonal shift. This is no longer wacky and silly. It's now like kind of fucked up.
Yeah, it goes from like goblins to a
llama.
A llama to like a downtrodden Hispanic hoarder character who is just scared.
It makes me wonder, and I don't know if this gets answered, if this is if that is an actual woman who was like imprisoned and trapped here.
They actually asked themselves that in the scene, like was this just a woman who was in bed when the collapse happened and they just plucked her out,
turned her into a monster?
Yeah, plucked her out and turned her into a monster. And later
feels
on
that way, right?
Later on, Mordecai says they do that. Like a lot of the monsters that you're going to fight are from Earth or other planets that have been involved in this thing. And some of them are made up from whole cloth, but a lot of them at their core are just people.
And we see that with the juicer as well. And, it's sad seeing this like silly swole bro fighting at the same time, also being like kind of like supportive, like, yeah, you can do this, brother.
Yeah, I'm proud of you, bro.
Hey, you did a good job.
Yeah.
Well, at the same time, please don't kill me. Hey, that troglodyte was my friend. What did you do? Just killed my friend.
Yeah.
So it's that one more so was like in the sillier element, but coming on the heels of the hoarder character, you can't help but also a little bit sympathize with whatever's going on with the possible backstory of that character.
It really sets up a kill or be killed kind of thing.
Yeah, I guess the morality conflict there is like, what do you do in Carl's place? Like, you're put into this situation. Like,
right.
Was Carl wrong to kill them or kill the goblin babies?
Yeah, the babies. And he even like rationalizes it to himself. He says the only reason that this happened to them is that they were set up in a room with a boss that I'm supposed to, by the rules of this whole situation, that I'm supposed to kill. So it isn't like I'm just deciding to kill a bunch of babies.
Right.
This was the shitty hand that we were dealt. Like we had, they were, I didn't even know they were in the room, you know?
It's the disgusting aristocracy, the Roman Empire and the Colosseum and like shit like that, where they put you in a fucked up situation, and then what are you gonna do? You gotta kill the other people to survive.
I mean, it's like the goblin boss used those kids as a human shield, or a goblin shield, as the case would be.
I think it's even worse than that, because it was showrunners using that situation as entertainment.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm hesitant to say because it sounds like rationalization, but it seems like everything falls on the shoulders of the showrunners, the people who put this together.
Yeah.
I mean, they set all this up for this very purpose.
We also get an interesting interaction with the goblin shaman ladies, where, you know, up until this point, you're just kind of killing creatures down in the dungeon, but because they're able to have conversations because of their magical tattoo that give them passage into the goblin world. Sounds so ridiculous when I actually say these.
It's so ridiculous.
Anyway, because they're able to actually talk to these goblins, they start talking to these goblin shaman ladies, and they reveal that they actually have an awareness of the structure of the game mechanics, that they know that there are multiple floors, that they are promised that if they can do a good job and kill crawlers, they can graduate to lower levels and eventually, hopefully, have a place where they can raise their own family and not be subjected to this. So we now learn that they're as much a trapped victim in this.
I think what they said was some of us smarter mobs,
Not all of them.
Not all of the mobs, but some of the smarter ones will have varied idea of what's going on. Like some of them know exactly like the whole machination of the dungeon and this whole situation. Some of them have some idea of what's going on, and some of them have a completely clear picture of their situation.
And when they say, well, if we do well, we'll get to graduate to this. And you just look at them and go, you really believe that?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you should. But I guess there's something interesting about the whole, like, after, like, they're trapped in a cycle.
Yeah.
This is a show that repeats in different worlds, and these characters are resurrected, maybe repurposed. It's kind of hard to tell at this point. But they go through this over and over. Like Mordecai's a great example of this. He talks about like how he's been on so many crawls, and he's 3 weeks from retirement, and he's finally close to the end. But he's had to go through this over and over with people. And I guess when you start putting it in that lens, him being grizzled and being standoffish makes sense, because he's probably invested in a lot of people who die over and over.
Sure. Well, you meet Mordecai, and it's the first person who really, is making the effort to help you.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of great information. And then he drops that like, oh, I've been through this and I've got down there and I just have to keep repeating it. And you go like, hold on, this is the best scenario, fate that I could hope for is to be you. Oh man,
That's where
I don't know if I want to keep doing this.
Which is why it's fascinating when he says, and this was in the first section, and I don't think we discussed this for episode 1, but he takes Carl and he says, hey, no matter what, don't take that deal. It's not worth it.
Yeah, he
not
said,
until you even get to the 12th floor. It is not worth it, because he said he took a deal at the 10th floor.
Yeah, that a lot of people are offered exit deals on the 10th floor to leave the dungeon and then be servants or do some kind of
It's a hellish purgatory.
Yeah, do some kind of job within the dungeon structure to help run later crawls. And a lot of people, that's the way they leave the situation.
Mm-hmm.
They take a deal, they exit the dungeon. And yeah, Mordecai is like, the first set of deals are going to be shit. Like, don't take one. And Donut even says, Is he saying that it's better to die than to take the first set of deals that they offer you?
I guess what I'm trying to say, Martin, is all of this matters.
Okay.
There are these silly extraneous details you think at first, but it all becomes pretty relevant. And yeah, hopefully that's not too much also of a spoiler, but I think it's what's interesting that you had talked about, Rubio, is that the author of this series, Matt Denneman, is a pantser, which is to say he writes by the seat of his pants instead of a plotter. He doesn't map everything out before he writes it.
Right.
He's a pantser. And the people that write like that, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Right.
But what's fascinating is that he does a good job of putting in what might be throwaway lines in these first books and being able to incorporate and use them later on, which I find impressive, and hopefully you will as we go along as well. I did want to jump into talking about the Frank Q story arc.
Yeah,
Frank Q and Maggie Mai.
Yeah, that's an interesting arc that doesn't really get resolved where we are.
No, but what this set of chapters does is it does the Walking Dead thing. It presents us with an example of the bad of humanity and an example of the good of humanity. We see the bad of humanity in what's going on with Frank Q and lying and deceit and murder. And then we see the people at Meadowark who are fighting to save each other, even when it would be better to cut and run and just look out for yourself.
Sure.
But yeah, in the Frank Q arc, what did you make of like how that whole scene was kind of unfolding?
It's funny. Reading that, it reminded me of the We're Alive podcast, or radio audio drama. With Frank Q and his partner, where he says like, "Yeah, we're cops and we got separated in this," and I was like, "You're cops? Yeah, you're bad people. I'm sorry." So when they turned out to be the bad guys, I was like, "Yeah, that tracks."
Unsurprised.
Well, Carl does kind of peg him for a cop.
Oh, he's talking.
I
love that he pegged him right off. They were like, "Yeah, this doesn't add up." But what I really loved was how he told Donut, "Don't kill him." And at first I was like, why? And then the explanation of why, I was like, oh, that was so smart. And that was a really good turn in the book.
Yeah, the way, so Frank Q and Maggie Mai, or Frank Q comes out and introduces himself because they found a dead crawler. Carl and Donut find a dead crawler, this Rebecca W. lady that they find dead. She's had all of her clothes stripped off of her. And I think she's been looted as well.
Yeah.
Clearly shot, yeah.
Yeah, she was shot right in the middle of the chest. And the info box that comes up when they examine her corpse says, "Killed by crawler Frank Q." And they're like, this is fucked. Like, I don't even know. So they end up finding this guy. He's like in a safe room bathroom. And he claims he's been sleeping in there for the last, I don't know, several hours. And this safe room is one of the safe rooms that doesn't have a babka in it, doesn't have like an attendant in it. And instead of an attendant, there's a plate of experience cookies, right? That people can help themselves. They can have one experience cookie a day and it gives you 10 experience. And that's just the way the showrunners or the dungeon runners are making up for the fact that there's no attendant there. So when Carl and Donut have one when they think they're alone, and the experience of the cookie gets split. So Carl gets like a 9.2 or 9.8, and the 0.2 goes to Donut, and then it balances out when she eats hers, right? They split experience just being in the same room. So as, you know, this Frank Q guy comes out of the bathroom, says he was sleeping in there, he goes over and eats one of these cookies, and the experience alert pops up over his head as a 9.2, meaning he's partied with somebody else after he said that all, like, his party is dead. Like, I was with somebody else, she's dead. And that's the thing that made Carl go, she's lying, you know, let them take an action. Like, they're going to attack us in here, just let it happen. And the reason for that is because Mordecai said, if a crawler attacks another crawler in a safe room, they'll freeze.
Yeah.
Like there's a, it's not possible, right? There's a penalty that happens. And
it was clever.
It was really clever. And that's one of the things that I really like about Carl as a character is he's very good with mechanics. Like he's very good at seeing exploits. He's really good at seeing, and I think one of the best parts, and I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here, but one of the best pieces of advice that Mordecai gives Carl, and I think this is when they're going to go after that ball of swine, was that there are clues to weaknesses. Most of these mobs have weaknesses. They're always
like a video game.
Yeah, there are always clues. Find them. And I think he takes that to heart throughout the rest of the series. I think that's the single most important piece of advice that he gets.
Well, yeah, and if you think about like right from the first chapter, Carl is now a loner because he broke up with his girlfriend, and he's a guy who's operating immediately from the get-go with trust issues.
Right.
He just had his girlfriend cheating on him. He's now on his own, and he is already in that mindset of don't trust people. And now he's using that as a survival mechanic. And when he's presented with Frank Q, he has to analyze and break down and figure out where elements of the lies don't add up. And I mean, it's the same as when he encounters the Meadowark crew. He starts like, there's the same issue of like, oh, you have player skulls presented. That means you've killed humans in the game.
Oh, to Amani. Yeah.
To Amani, like, what does that mean? And can you justify why you have those versus Frank Q? His story was flimsy.
His story was flimsy, but also Carl telling Donut, don't kill them because we don't want to get those skulls on us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another interesting little clue that I had cued in on, but they never mention in the book. When Frank Q's talking about his story, he says essentially they're in a firefight with like some Asian mob at the docks.
Right.
That Rebecca W. was part of.
Yeah, because they were both supposedly from ICE.
Yeah. And what happens is the portal opens up right underneath his underneath his partner, Maggie Mai, and she falls in. So he just goes in after her. But both of them, their number is 3,000 something. We see that Carl is one of the first people in because the portal opens like 100 feet from him. So he's able to just run right over there in his boxer shorts. And he's number 3 or 4,000. So there's a considerable difference. Like if that opened up right under you, your number probably wouldn't be, it would be a much lower number. I was like, are they going to mention that? But they don't mention it.
Interesting.
It was like something I was already, I was like, oh, he's about to call him out on that number. And it never happens. And it's like,
that is
just one of those extra clues, I guess. Anyway,
that's cool.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of neat. So we'll have to revisit what happens with Frank Q, I guess, maybe down the road. But we run into another group, the Meadowlark crew. What's your thought on them?
Well, it's a good contrast from the people we just met.
Right.
And, like Carl, there are some, like, what are you people all about? Who's not telling the truth? Yeah, with the skulls, but their explanation checks out. It's like, look, we run a nursing home.
Yeah,
and people die.
We're the night staff at a nursing home, and there were like 200 residents.
Yeah. You're like, all right, that makes sense. And to see the selflessness of everyone, how they're putting themselves on the line to try to save all the people. You want everybody to get saved, but it's impossible. But there's also that I couldn't make a decision on who lives and who dies.
It's fucked up to be in that situation where, like, these people are going to hold you back and you could survive without them, and they're going to die anyway.
Right. So what would you do?
I think that
be selfish.
That told us everything.
I mean, I don't know. I don't have Carl's build or his training. I guess I would probably try to make myself valuable to a group.
I mean, I
Survival
feel like he
situation.
picks the best answer because like you, I'm going through this, and it's like these people are going to die anyway, and the most they can do is help the rest of us get killed. At the same time, to walk away and do nothing, leave them there, that seems like that would haunt me for the rest of the little time I have left.
Yeah, I think Carl said, what's the point of staying alive, or what's the point of surviving if I can't look at myself?
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think he makes the best decision of all.
Yeah, he's a fool.
So there's this Meadowlark group, which consists of the night staff and all the residents, but there's also the reason that they were all outside at 2 something a.m. was Agatha, the homeless lady, who's probably in her 70s. She has a shopping cart. She set a barrel fire outside of the facility, and they all, what is it called when they leave to avoid the
they have to
fire?
evacuate.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm an old man. They evacuate, and that's why they're all outside and not killed during the collapse.
Yeah, it's like Agatha's fucking everything up for everybody, and yet in the midst of all that, her actions saved them.
Yeah.
And
You know what? It's kind of an interesting thing that you bring that up, because in the in part of the Patreon talk that we did after our first episode, I was actually asking Rubio about this idea of, did Donut leave the house out of some like animal instinct because she sensed something as well? Did she save him? Save Carl? Because she's out of there?
That's such a crackpot theory.
yeah, would the animal instinct be to run towards danger?
Or to leave the house that's about to flatten?
Are you
I
saying
don't
that
know.
Agatha's a cat or an animal?
Well, if she's a person that inadvertently saved all those people, I don't know.
She's
Such a-
paranoid schizophrenic.
this is why you like Lost.
yeah.
I do like Lost.
Just it's all the alcohol is mom
Just
drank.
saying, Matt, there's opportunity here. There's opportunity.
You don't need to try so hard, Matt, because this is who's reading your book.
It'll be like that. So I'm wondering what else we want to kind of touch on, because I had this plot outline, but we've kind of hit on a lot of these things here.
Well, there are a couple of things that I think are interesting. Is so the burrow boss that they have to defeat to get to the next floor, that ball of swine, right? It's, I forget what the actual description was, but they're a bunch of like elite socialites in a drunken orgy that turns into this mob that it won't stop rolling until it's squeezed the last drop of blood out of the poor, like just all the lower class people, right?
Right.
And the way that they defeat that mob is really cool, because it's in this pen, this chamber, and the walls are sort of moving to guide that ball in the direction of the crawlers. And after like examining that for a while, Carl comes up with this idea, after Mordecai says there are always weaknesses. He notices that it's about the width and the height of, one of those corridors. So they end up building a little fortress, like a little easy to assemble, very, very heavy duty fortress that the ball can roll over and wedge between the ceiling and that fortress, because there's very little like wiggle room for it to play through. And it ends up working. Like it ends up being like this really cool design solution that he's come up with to defeat this boss. And I just thought that was like a really smart way for that character to deal with that problem after being told, hey, there are always clues. Like he saw the whole picture and came up with a really elegant solution.
I mean, it definitely feels like like a video game,
like a video game where you went, okay, I can't get past this level, and you go online to read what somebody does.
What's the playthrough say I gotta do here? Let me pull out the old GamePro magazine.
But except that he figures it out. He doesn't cheat.
Yeah.
I mean, that whole reading the playthrough, that's me doing it.
It's you skipping ahead. But the idea that they are able to, I guess, kind of exploit the system that has been set up because they have an unlimited amount of space in their inventory that they can just collect. Like this was constructed out of him and Donut making a point of picking up and looting everything. Like,
yeah, they literally said, just take everything you can.
Yeah. And then there's this point where one of the characters is like gets a dildo and she's like, I'm not taking that. And Donut picks it up and she goes, pick up everything, loot everything, right, Carl? And he's like, everything. So she picks up that dildo. but that just kind of goes to show you that like they've been like everywhere they go picking up as whatever that he can lift, like all the goblin stuff. He's picking it up and just like adding it to it because you don't know. And then it ended up paying off here because they had all the stuff that he was able to repurpose.
Yeah, they had all that metal, all the weights, everything that they looted from the gym.
Yeah.
To build this thing, and yeah, it really paid off.
I wonder if he'll pay off more in the future.
So yeah, after defeating that boss, they end up at the stairs. Like it's available to them. It's passable. They can now go down to level 2, and before they realize it, Agatha has already pushed her cart. By the way, like Carl, before the boss battle, took her cart into his inventory and told her, go over there and just fucking be safe over there.
Yeah.
And like, once we build this thing, then join us under it. And to keep her more mobile, he took her cart into his inventory. And then after the fight, she's like, give it back to me. And he returned it to her. And when he turned back around to find her, he noticed that the stairs, like they do, turned into a ramp when Agatha fucking rushed down there before anybody else could.
And then they followed through, and we aren't left with just end of part 1. Is this the first time and only time they have like an act 1, act 2, or part 1, part 2, whatever it was?
I don't remember, but it might be.
It's not something I remember in the books, but I also am listening so quickly that when there's parts, I can't gloss over them.
Right.
Yeah.
But this ends with a very, I don't know, is there a good TV show that does this?
Stop. He gets down the stairs. He gets down the stairs and he sees the same kind of door, that giant gate that he saw when he entered the dungeon. It's like got a carving of a Kuatin.
A fish.
Yeah, the fish people.
Yeah.
And he goes over and he touches the thing to open it, and he and Donut are teleported into a plush room with carpeting and couch.
Can you imagine how that'd feel on your feet after running through that dungeon for like 5 days?
Right.
Plush carpet. It's like the beginning of Die Hard. He's just like rubbing his feet on the carpet.
And then there's like a producer woman walks through the door, and she introduces herself as a producer for Odette's talk show about the dungeon crawl.
Donut's favorite show.
Yeah, she says that she wants to interview them.
I'm excited about this because, well, I remember really enjoying the next sequence, and I stopped right before this, and so I haven't gone back into it. But B, this is the opening up to the grander world. Now an opportunity to interact with the viewing audience, I guess, as it is, whether it's Odette in the show or anyone beyond that. So the implications there, it's just fun for what we can discuss on next week's episode.
Yeah, and that's kind of where it leaves off, is on that boat, Donut being excited that they're going to get an interview. And that's the end.
All she's been talking about.
That's all she cares about is being featured, is getting famous, is getting eyes on her. And she's finally has an opportunity for that.
But she's right. I mean, it's again, to go back to Hunger Games, which I compared this to. That was the thing that the character PETA, what was his name?
Yeah,
PETA?
PETA, yeah.
Okay. He was always smart about it. He's like, hey, this is a game for how people are going to view us. And if they are rooting for our quote unquote story, they will help us survive this.
Yes.
So we make a story for them and that benefits us. And like, that's the gamemanship that Donut seems to just immediately grasp onto and is pushing for. So she's coming from a very gamesmanship angle of play to the audience, and Carl's coming from a exploit whatever rules I can to fuck shit up.
But also, we have to save as many people as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, like even the old people.
I'd let them die. I'd let them die. I don't know.
Come on, you wouldn't pick at least 2 or 3 favorites.
Maybe. It depends on
The
what
ones that seem the most mobile.
Yeah, like what was your opinion of season 6 of Lost? I'd probably like present these kind of questions.
Lost? What's that? No, never mind you.
Bye. I think that's about it. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to hit on?
No, I think
yeah, we covered a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
There'll probably be something. We're still finding our footing for the format of the show.
Next show we'll be like, here's all the stuff we didn't cover last time.
Yeah, and like we're still trying to figure out the format for this. So far it's just like a discussion, and I kind of like that.
Yeah.
We're not like getting too far into the weeds of plot, or it isn't a recap show. It's hey, like we just read this thing, let's talk about it a little bit.
I dig that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we want to thank you guys for checking us out, tuning in to our first couple episodes. We have a Patreon that we had mentioned. I do want to give a shout out to I think as of this second episode we have one crawler who's joined as a patron, Christian Castanon. I want to say, hey, welcome.
Hey.
Part of the crawl. And if more pop up here, that's just because they've joined since we've recorded this, but before we've posted it. So
Okay.
I'll put other names up if there are other people.
We're right on.
We appreciate your support. Christian, right on. And we want to also say, hey, if you guys are listening to this, if you have comments and questions, I think we can start incorporating that as well. Put them in wherever you're watching. If you're watching on Spotify or if you're watching on YouTube, those are probably going to be the primary places. Otherwise, I guess you can also email us, hellocrawlers@gmail.com. Try and check those as well. But if they're in like YouTube and Spotify, until we like become a big deal, I'll probably see the 7 comments.
Yeah.
They're on there.
Yeah,
and I can read those.
They're all going to be from the same person.
Lost is so awesome, isn't it? It's just me.
It's
me talking about like, oh man, Desmond's so dreamy.
So next episode, we're going from the beginning of part 2 to the end of chapter 38.
Okay.
That's the plan.
Okay.
We weren't sure if we were going to go all the way to the end, but this is nice because it'll give us 2 chapters for level 1 and then wherever it ends from level 2 on.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So everyone, thank you again for checking us out, and be sure to get out there and read.
And read.
Read some more.